Hello again, Case family. Paul here. This is part 2 on our video series about sheetrock repair. This is going to be dealing with the texture. Now, if you haven't watched the first sheetrock repair video, I'd suggest you go back and watch that first. For those of you who have completely smooth walls with no texture, congratulations, you're done. You can go ahead and paint your patches. For the rest of us, it's time to tackle texture. In this video, I'm going to cover the 3 most common textures. Orange peel, knockdown, and popcorn. And using 2 different methods, using spray cans and a hopper. Here's our materials. A drop cloth and plastic sheeting and some tape. Always work clean. A mixing bucket. Mud. Our dry spray texture for popcorn. Our hoppers. This one is used with a air compressor. This one has its own air supply. Our 3 different types of texture in a spray can. Large mud knife to knock down our texture in the knockdown technique. And some PPE. Something I failed to mention in the first video is preparing the work area. Texture and sheetrock work in general is messy. Make sure to cover everything. A good general rule is to cover everything that you are sure you'll get overspray on, and then go back and cover anything you're sure you won't get overspray on. Just cover everything. This plastic is pretty cheap, and it's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay, so what I want to say about these cans is they don't work if it's cold. So I usually heat them up in warm water. Just leave them there 5-10 minutes until the can is heated. Just like any other pressurized can, they just don't work when it's cold. And then the instructions say shake vigorously for 1 minute. I'm shaking for about 5 or 6 minutes, and I just shake it and I just shake it until I feel like it's enough.
One eternity later.
All kidding aside, our cans are warm and shaken. Remove the lid. There's a little tab here you break off. And it has an adjustment for heavy or fine setting to depend on whatever your wall is. You know, it's trying to match the texture that's already there on your wall. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna spray it in kind of a circular pattern and try to match our texture that's on our wall already. I give it a little spray first to usually got a little bit of, it's more thin at the when you first start spraying it. And then you spray the wall and then start spraying. Trying to match your existing texture on your wall. Now, if it's too heavy, you can dial it down Okay, here's our knockdown texture. Pick up the tab, set your adjustment. In circular motion. If you feel like you've messed up an area, it's okay, just scrape it off. And give it another try. Now I'm giving this probably about 12 to 16 inches away from the wall because at the beginning of the can, it always has more pressure. Once you've used most of the can, you'll probably find that you'll need to go closer to the wall. Okay, now we give that like 3 to 5 minutes to dry and set up a little bit, and then we can use our big blade and knock it down. Okay, so we've let that set up a little bit. I'm just gonna take the blade, go really shallow against the wall, very shallow angle, and knock it down. Okay, here's our popcorn ceiling texture. So this one, I'm just gonna do light sweeps back and forth until I get my desired coverage. Now, if this were a patch, I'd wanna try to keep it off of the existing popcorn, just because I don't wanna build that up and create a different or a heavier texture. I just want to kind of feather it onto the patch. We'll see how this is coming out in bigger clumps. Later on, you can smash those down or pop them off. And of course, if we're working inside an actual apartment, you'd want to plastic off this up to the ceiling to keep the splatter off the walls. See, it's very messy.
And when you're done, you can turn it upside down and spray the excess material out of the nozzle. I even rinse it out under the tap water to help clean it out.
This over here is our orange peel, our knockdown, and our popcorn.
This is our popcorn panel. Like I said earlier, anything that's undesirable or too large, you could just pick it off with your finger gently.
Let's look at our texture guns and hoppers. The first one here uses an air compressor for the air supply. And this is the texture gun. And this is the hopper. It'll go right on the top like that. And you can tighten it up right here so it doesn't fall off. This particular gun has a couple of different options. It's got a small, medium, and a large tip for it. In order to change the tip, you just unscrew it here and put in the different tip. The small one is for the orange peel, the medium one is for the knockdown, and the larger one is for the popcorn. And once you get your hopper on here and filled with material, you can hook up your air hose right here. This one has an on and off switch for the air supply, and also an adjustment right here. So you unscrew this or screw it back in to move a rod up and down, and it gives you a different amount of material that flows out. So once again, you've set up your air compressor, you've hooked your air hose to the gun, you've chosen the appropriate tip, you filled the hopper with material, and then you're ready to spray. So you just turn on the air and spray. This one functions just like the other one, in that it has a hopper, a gun part, and an air source. This is just a little motor that pushes air through the gun. And here's a couple of the tips. Go in here just like this. It originally comes with 3. I lost one, but so yeah, it functions just like, does the exact same thing the other one does. Here's how you put the motor on. You just line up the lines and give it a twist, and it locks into place. And this goes on here like this. Give it a twist. And it's all assembled. You put your materials in here, hook up to a extension cord, and start texture. So both of these function the exact same way and give the same results. So I'm not going to show you each of the 3 textures with both of them. I'll just alternate between them.
So here we are, I'm mixing up the mud for the orange peel and knockdown texture. I'm just putting mud in the bucket, adding a little bit of water, mixing it up a little bit. I'm using a drill with a mixing attachment on it right here. And basically just add a little water, mix it up, see how your mixture is, and then add a little more if you need. And you can go back and forth and add water or mud if you get it too thin. I ended up getting it a little too thin in this for my orange peel. I like it a little thinner for orange peel and a little thicker for knockdown. You know, it's just it's just a process that you kind of have to figure out along the way. It's also always good to test it out on a piece of cardboard or a piece of sheetrock that you're not going to use. Right here, I'm just trying to show how thin it is. Again, I mix it probably a little too thin, but I go back later and add a little bit more when I do the knockdown. So when I start spraying here, is when I realize that the mixture is a little too thin. What I could have done was scrape down the wall and pour the mud back into the bucket and mix a little bit more mud in with it to thicken it up. But I left my mistake in here to show you that you can problem solve along the way. What I ended up doing was I ended up shutting off the valve a little bit to the gun, and it sprayed a lot better after that. Here I used the same mixture I used for the orange peel. I just added a little bit more mud to it to thicken it up, and it gave me the perfect knockdown texture pattern. Allow 3 to 5 minutes to set up, and then you can come back and knock it down. Here I've already got the powdered popcorn texture in the bucket, and I'm just adding water in small increments until I get the proper consistency. Yep, that's almost perfect, and almost perfect is good enough for me. Spray with a steady back and forth overlapping motion, taking care to match the existing texture. Empty the excess texture back into the mixing bucket. Then dispose of any unused portion into the trash. Never pour texture down the drain. Then break down your hopper and rinse each part thoroughly. Don't let texture dry out in your hopper gun. Believe me, save yourself the headache. Same thing goes with the small Wagner texture sprayer. Remove the electrical component, that's for sure. You don't need to get that wet. Then rinse it out thoroughly. Never let any texture dry in there. Then finish up with rinsing out your mixing bucket and your tools. And it's worth mentioning, if you're working in an occupied unit, take your messy tools to a vacant or an outside spigot to rinse them out. Don't try to
rinse out your tools in the residence sink. And listen, it's nobody else's job to clean up after us but ourselves. Your coworkers will love you for it. So here's a pro tip for pouring your material into the hopper. This one stands up pretty good on its own, but you still need to be careful when you're pouring it in. It could fall either way. Sometimes I lean down against something, but it stands pretty well. And then you can just pour your mixture right in the top. For this one, before you hook the air hose up to it, you can set it in a bucket. So that holds it for you if you don't have anyone there to help you hold it. And then you just pour it into the hopper. It's a good idea to mix your texture that you're gonna need for the project all at once, so that your consistency throughout your spraying is gonna remain the same. And it'll get easier with time and experience to estimate the amount you'll need for a certain project. Well, that's it. Now we're all masters of the texture. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I hope you learned something. And as always, feel free to contact me with any questions. Thanks.